Good morning, dreamers. How are you today? Haven't put my jewelry on yet. I just wanted to come and say hello, and you made it to Friday. Encourage you however I can. Oh, it's been a week, but nothing compared to that. Last week was a week filled with bumps and bruises, but this week was so long, mostly because of the hold. Yesterday, who was I on hold with yesterday? Oh, the union. That didn't take too long. It was fine. So, call me today and I'll ask you to put me on hold. Mm-hmm. Just to round out the week. Yeah. To round out the week. I hope you're doing all right. Nothing super spiritual here. Not at all. Yesterday at our, we call it Church on Tap. It's a theology discussion group. And we meet at the pub. And one of the things that the children, they've been joining us lately, and instead of having a kids table the last couple of weeks, they've actually sat right with us and been part of the discussion. And one of the things that they described after having been at Youth Alpha right before coming to Church on Tap was that there could be two people in the same environment have a totally different experience about what is happening in that environment, which is absolutely not mind blowing. But for instance, there's a church in town where there's some people that are just like, this is the most amazing place. It is so welcoming. It is so, and I've been in that kind of situation where, of course, everyone's welcome. Yes, you're welcome to come and then become who you're supposed to be. And we will be the instructors of that, but you're welcome, right? And that's, but when you don't fit in that box, the welcome all of it starts getting tighter and tighter and tighter. And so this church came up without intentionally, like there's several youth in our group that have experiences with this church. And it's not the one that we were at that this discussion was happening at. It's just a different church down the street. And like there were some guys that were adamant, no, that could never have happened there. Like, no, and naming people. They would never say that. They would never say that. You're lying, right? And my kids are like, but it did happen. It did happen. And you brushing it off makes it feel like it's happening all over again. And I thought, it's such a stinky lesson for you to have to learn. But what an amazing lesson. Because now, if someone were to say, well, at your church, I had this happen, this happened, this happened. Really? Instead of, no, that person couldn't possibly be human and couldn't possibly make a mistake that could cause you pain. No, instead of doing that, they can say, I am so sorry. I am sorry that you experienced that. And they can validate that person's pain, even if they have not had the same experience. The not all ... fill in the blank is such a dismissive view. Or I never had that, so it didn't happen. Is such a dismissive view. And I'm glad, it sounds horrible, but I'm actually glad my kids were dismissed yesterday so that they can then turn around and go, I will not dismiss others. Because there are times, there are places where the kids do. They have such binary thinking, which is ironic. But it's a curse of a young person, and often adults don't grow out of it. Right? And these young men that were dismissive yesterday, they're going to grow and they're going to have life experiences and they're going to understand that, oh wow, people are human. People mess up. I'm not angry at that church. It was just a very interesting situation that had occurred where my children realized that not everybody experienced the same thing that they experience. And so we flipped it on its head as adults at this table talking with them. I said, okay, so how do you stop that from happening at the church you currently work and live in and are a part of? How do you stop that? How do you empathize? How do you validate people's pain even if you've never experienced it? It's a good question. But don't ever let your pain be wasted. It's not there to be wasted. It is not something to be beaten over the head with. It's not like God just said, I need to sharpen off some edges here. No, that's a byproduct of pain, is softened edges if we choose to soften our hearts. If we say, I'm going to be angry and bitter, then we're going to be harder. We're going to be harder. And it's one of those things where, how do we stop this from happening to the next person? And how do we learn how to not dismiss someone else's pain just because we're shocked that it happened in an environment where we love it? We love what's happening in that space. Because in our privileged world, everything's going right. It's a really good question. And I don't have any answers. I have no answers for us except to turn it around, flip it on its head and say, as long as I am able and within as much capacity as I am able, I am not going to allow that to happen to somebody else. How do we make other people's dismissive actions wake us up? Allow it to wake us up and say, not me, not on my watch. I love Jesus and I want to show the world who he is and what his love is all about. And I'm going to welcome, I'm going to encourage, I'm going to introduce them to Jesus. I'm going to step back and let him rock and roll. How do you do that? If you have any suggestions, put them in the comments, because oh my goodness, I'd love some more. Happy Friday. Know that I love you. I'm not dismissing you, but I gotta run. Bye.